Two kids from Queens, cut from a different cloth. Now joining forces, helping you to elevate your personal brand. Yeah, I'm talking about Nicky and Moose, bringing you a never-before-seen perspective into the mindset, the mentality, the behaviors, the driving force, but more importantly, the stories behind the people and brands that you know and love the most.
Was poppin'. Welcome, Nicky and Moose. I'm Nicky. That's Moose. What's up, Moose?
What up, y'all?
And welcome to the YouTube Livey. And shout out to everybody who's watching this live. Shout out to everybody who's watching this replay. We appreciate you. Episode 81 dropped today, or when you're watching this, April 19th, okay, Tuesday. It dropped today. So go check that out. It's a really dope episode. We talked about Snoop. We talked about Floyd Mayweather. Well, not really Floyd, but his perspective on things. The guy from Kith and Calendly. Oh. Yeah. I still can't say his. I looked up his name. I figured it out. Whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Right. Anyways, so check that episode out. Please do a favor, like, share. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. But definitely share this with your people because we're going to be talking about a hot topic today. I'm going through it. Moose seems to have perfected it because he talks about it with like not a sweat or anything. He'd be like, "Oh, I'm going to change it to this now. Oh no,
it's always easier when you're not the one in the seat. You know, like. When you're not the one in the situation, you'll be coming up with all the answers all of a sudden.
Oh, listen, because I promise you, so real quick, we're going to be talking about pricing, and we'll get into it. But I've been on many calls with Moose, just many, like every Monday or something like that, right? And then anytime pricing comes up, my man's like, yeah, do like a 50K proposal, do like. 10K and just look at them and don't blink. And, it's like he talks about this with no problem at all. So whenever I have to do something new, I go to him because he's like, yeah, charge them this. And if it's over this, do this. And if it's not this, charge them this. I'm like, how do you know all this? What is happening? So, yeah, we're gonna talk about it. But first, I always gotta see, how are you? Have you ate? Are you good? You good? You look.
Yeah.
I promise you, compared to the first time we did this, you look beyond. Now, granted, let me ask. No, we're 19. Didn't you start on the first?
Yeah, so I started on the 2nd. Today's the 19th. I just finished day number 17, technically.
Right. I was going to say 19. Let me wait 19 days and you'll probably look. Yeah. But that's 2 days from now. You look great.
It's not bad. Like, physically, you feel it. Like, I was just telling about I was like, man, my legs feel like jello today. I feel like my insides are now, like, completely depleted. I'm empty. But fortunately, you're able to get a little bit of food. Like I broke fast, but just like 10 minutes before we jumped on. So get some food into you. You get on the call and you start just drinking some liquids or whatnot, and you make it happen. But it's worth it. It's worth it. I can't complain. Thanks for asking, though. I do appreciate that for sure.
Look, I gotta ask because I was inconsiderate last time and just saw you pretty much weave away. Like it was just.
Just dying on the call, like, hey y'all. Right.
You're like Michael Jordan. Yeah. He shoots basketballs.
Yeah. He makes it happen.
Oh my God. Okay, but a shout out to anybody who is fasting during this time too. I look at y'all, all of y'all, just differently because now I'm noticing. Because now everybody's like, yep, I'm breaking fast. I was like, I never even knew you were Muslim. What are we talking about? Yeah, Why is this new? Did you just start new trends? Like,
seriously.
What is
Yeah. Well, it's crazy, man. I think, and I always think about, like, not to just like reminisce and make it mad dramatic, but I remember when I was younger, this stuff was foreign. Like me going to school and fasting, it was like, what are you talking about? What do you mean fasting? Like, you're not going to enjoy the Halloween party? Because like when I was younger and in school, Ramadan fell during like, say, Christmas, Halloween. So we would have those like in class bonkers sugar parties with all types of cookies and craziness. And here I am like packing goodie bags and like taking them home so that I can eat after I break fast. But it was just so foreign, where now people have studied it from so many different areas. You know, people have given more of a voice, or the faith is rather more accepted in the space or in the world. And then also everyone has discovered all of the health benefits because of fasting. You know, the fact that you give your digestive system a break, the fact that you kind of renew your blood cells and increase your white blood cells. And it's just, the list goes on. So I think a lot of people, even if they're not entirely a part of the faith, they're like, yo, okay, I'm going to take this time to also get into it so that I can get those benefits myself. But I've always said it though, man, it's a beautiful month. It's challenging, but that's what makes it so great. You walk out at the end of the month like you just went through training camp. It's like, yeah, you've been preparing for a fight by the time you walk out of it. But yeah, it's a good time.
I like it.
Beautiful. But yeah, I mean, as far as the topic tonight, right? And I know Nick spoke about it a little bit, regarding pricing, and I've always, and it's so interesting, right? Because I feel like we might have talked about this maybe months ago as it relates to pricing, and I'm like, as the more I think about it, I realize that it's difficult to price something that doesn't have a cost. Here's what I mean by this, right? When you're selling a product and you have to buy some level of, say, merchandise, or you have to buy something, it's somewhat easy because you know that, well, if I'm going to sell a hat and I bought it for 10, then the least I can sell it for is, let's say, 15, 20, 25. And then you have other people out there, stores who are selling hats, where you could look like, oh, this brand sells it for that much and that brand sells it for that much. So it starts to make sense a little bit. But the services are probably the single greatest anomaly or like awkward thing to charge, especially if you're a creator. If you're a creative, if you are someone who's selling your knowledge and expertise, that is difficult, because how do you figure out your cost? What did it cost you for you to gain this knowledge? What did it cost you for you to earn this expertise? That's a very difficult thing to figure out. And I think that's why a lot of people struggle with it. For me, I think I've just been blessed, especially with my role, whenever I'm in a position to be an advisor. I've just been blessed to that it comes easy to me. Like, I can listen to your side and what's being said, or what we're trying to accomplish. And I'm like, okay, I think this is the most logical or reasonable thing to do. Right. So like, how have I done a lot of these things before? Not as much, but I am pretty comfortable with it because, like, I guess I'm just, some things come easy depending on our skill set. So that's one of those things for sure. But what I want us to talk about tonight for sure is how do we price for creators, or service providers? Because that's one of the different things that's an anomaly. So if you're out there and you're listening and you're wondering, like, okay, maybe you've been having, say, challenges around figuring out, should I go with the hourly model? Should I go with a flat fee? Should I go with a project-based type thing? Or should I go with a base plus something, right? There's a lot of different ways that you can price it that can be reasonable. But the part that I will throw in there now and just tell you, just because you're talking numbers, don't underestimate the power of words. And we're going to start right there. Just because we're talking numbers around pricing, don't underestimate the power of words. So there was like one revision. Say again?
I said, what that mean?
Oh, so and this is how I learned this. I was in a car dealership with my uncle once. It was a Mercedes dealership, to be exact. and
Like flex.
little some. So right. So
It was the shrug for me.
so he's walking around with one of the sales associates, and the guy's telling him like, "Oh, he's like, yeah, I want this car and blah blah." And they talk the numbers out, and the guy's like, "Well, I don't think we have this one in store. Let me talk to the manager and kind of figure out what's going on." So he goes over to the manager, and it's me, my uncle, the sales associate, and the manager right there. And he says, "Hey, I have this gentleman here. He wants to buy a car, and he's looking for the cheapest option."
Okay.
And on the spot, the manager said to him, "You mean the least expensive option?" And he was like, "Oh, yeah. The least expensive option." Right. And there I was, I think it might have been 18, 19 years old. I was introduced to the power of words because I was like, yo, how are you going to use the word cheap when you're talking about the Mercedes brand? That was kind of the lesson that I took away from that. There is a way for you to talk about something that's affordable without calling it cheap. So that's how I kind of learned about it. When we're talking about numbers, you got to really pay attention to the words that you're using. So when you say, "Oh, it's cheap, it don't even cost a lot," well, you just associated your brand with something that is cheap, not something that's affordable, not something that is, say, given to you at a discounted rate. So one of the examples that we talked about in what you could think of as a project-based price, right, is some people will give you a dedicated amount of hours so you can work on something. Or they will say, "Hey, I'm willing to take on this project, but because it's a creative endeavor," and what happens in creative endeavors, and again, a lot of you who are dealing with graphic design, photography, videography, or editing, you know that if you're working with a client who's giving you 17 different edits or revisions to make, your project that's supposed to take you 5 hours could easily expand to 17. And you're like, yo, you just wasted 12 hours of my time and my money didn't increase with it. Not because I did a poor job, but because you didn't know what you wanted and you kind of figured it out as you go. So I get penalized for that. So the way they build that, or the way they kind of explain that to people ahead of time, is what we sent. So up to 10 hours, this is what it will cost. Anything more than 10 hours, every hour after that is going to cost a little bit more.
Right.
Now it's allowing you to stay in your skill set and in your bag, and then the rest of them, or anything after that, the client is like, "Well, I want to finish before 10. I don't want to go over 10 because I actually pay more for it."
Right.
So even in that example, when we were kind of crafting it for what you had going on, it was, I think it said at least 10 hours.
Right.
And it's like, that's again, one of those words. It's like, at least 10 hours is me saying, well, I'm going to, I don't know, basically try and waste time to get to 10 hours. And then after that is when I'll charge you the other thing, where it's just like, no, it could be 1 hour, it could be 4 hours, but anything up to 10 is where it matters. So that's my first kind of piece to it. Is like, when it comes to pricing, just because we're talking numbers, it doesn't take away from the importance of words. But yeah, talk to us. And I think you're in a pretty unique position with all this too, because like we're literally working on this. I don't want to say a guinea pig, but it's like you're literally in this process of like having to figure out a lot of new stuff. Like, man, how do I price companies and brands who want content from me? How do I price, these new things that I'm comfortable making and actually really good at, but I've never done before? Like, what's accepted? What's not accepted? How do I make sure I'm not getting taken advantage of? Right. So yeah, talk to us about that a little bit, because that's pretty interesting. How does it feel to be in that position?
I don't know yet. I think new for me is sometimes, yes, exciting, but kind of confusing at the same time, because it's like new territory. And so I like to be in territory that I I know what I'm doing right now with now being a little bit more acceptive of, okay, we're about to build more of an agency type based situation than what it was before. When I've definitely been so against services for others. Yep. But I think I don't struggle necessarily with pricing as far as if it has nothing to do with talking. Like I struggle with the talking part. I could talk all day about what I do. And this is why I don't necessarily allow too many people to call me, because I know their agenda, right? Let me just get on the phone with you for like 5 minutes is a lie. Don't say that.
It's never 5 minutes.
It's never 5, right? It's never 10. It's never 30.
Right.
So, but if you catch me and you ask me a question, I'm not going to like be like, that's an invoice.
Right.
Can't do it. Right.
Talk to my manager.
Right. Can't do it. Now, if it's to a point, I've gotten to a point where it's like, if it's creating something, if it's manual stuff, I know I'm at a point where I pass that to my team. So, of course, I know how to charge that because that's not going to be me. Right. So, and now I'm at a point where even you saw kind of the language that I did. It's now roles and responsibilities. It's not services. It's not, this is what you're getting. This is the role I'm playing. These are what I'm supposed to be doing and keeping it moving. For me, changing the language up really helps. Mm-hmm. So I know for like before, I may have struggled with maybe pricing because I looked at it as a service and that was something I didn't want to do, or it was something that I found super easy. Now I'm looking at it from a standpoint of I'm not being a service, I'm a position in somebody's company or somebody's brand. So it's a different level that I'm looking at pricing, and it's making it a little bit easier to where it's like, okay, I could do this. Now, where I struggle with is where you combine the talking and the services, right? That's where when you're doing two things of where you may be really good at, but then when you don't, like you do this for free, you just love it and everything like that. That's the hard part. And I know, and I can speak very transparent about this. When you have been in a level of service for so long, it's hard to put a price to it all of a sudden. Just because it's a higher caliber or a different person, different company, whatever it is. It's harder because even though I wouldn't do it, well, I would do a little bit. I'm not gonna be exaggerating. About to be real Puerto Rican. I wouldn't do anything different. I wouldn't. That's a lie. No. There's a few things. There's a few things I would have done different. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't regret anything. I don't regret. I just would do a few things different. You know what I mean?
Right,
I would do a few things different, right? But I think, okay, I'll say this. I can say this. Maybe I'll get in trouble, but I don't care. Whatever. Maybe I shouldn't have served for multiple years. Not saying don't serve, but not serving, serving for multiple years for without pay makes it harder to ask for money later. Because I know from a when I started charging, I undervalued myself so many times. Like they got a steal,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they didn't value
Yeah.
it, and they still took advantage of it because I didn't know, like, and so you've already when you're doing something for several years, you're now growing in expertise. And if you don't learn how to price yourself at least decently, I'm not going to say master the joint, whatever. I'm just saying avoid undervaluing yourself. And it took 3 years, 3 years into it to finally get to a point where I'm like, okay, cool. And still doing it wrong. You know, like I look back at that and I'm like, yeah, I feel like, and shout out to my mom, I feel like that only child that is now starting to figure out things because they're outside.
Right.
You know, you have that mom that like shelters you from everything, and then you hit the real world and you're like, how do you figure this all this out? Like, you protected me, yes, but I figured it. So I feel the same way. Like, I went outside in the real world of service and all that great stuff, and it's like, no, how do you do this? How am I supposed to do these particular things? So it's definitely a huge struggle that I had in the beginning, and in certain things now I feel confident, but there's different tiers to what I do, right? There's the content creation side where brands are coming to me to create content for them to better expose their stuff. Then there's people who want to do like, yo, can you help me out with my social media, with my content? That's a different price range. Make this simple for me. I'm confused.
Right.
And I don't expect people to like, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Think about it like there's different streams. There's different ways to price yourself, right? There's different things that you're going to be doing that what you normally do is a price. What you do when you deal with people is a price. When you try to duplicate yourself, that's a price. There's different things that has a different price tag. And when you're used to one way and you finally figured it out, here comes another way. Nope. Here's another creative way to monetize. And you're like, I don't. I go back to, I don't have experience in this. No, you do.
Right.
You do.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think also it's important to not take on everything.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's important to not offer maybe everything that's being available to you or being requested of you.
Right.
Just because people are asking. We're in the process of doing now, we're literally reinventing and building out our entire business model before launching a product. We've never done this ever as an organization. So it has me in almost a new high, because I'm now having to think about start to finish. How should this go? Not, is it going to go according exactly to this? Probably not. Right. I one of the things I said on here some time back is you become a dangerous entrepreneur when you know that you just gave it your best, but it's not going to be the best. You become dangerous. You become ruthless. The fact that you gave it your all, you went all in, and what you're putting out is not going to be perfect, and you accept that, that's when you know you're truly like, you now get it. You're in the business because you can go back and make adjustments and upgrades and develop. And we talk about the example of Apple's 1 through 13, right? iPhone 1 wasn't the same as iPhone 13.
Thanks.
So that's a big development. So what we need to really think about now, and I'm saying this for me, Nicky, for everyone who's tapped in and listening to this, figure out your next move before you start. Even when you arrive at a really great idea and say, okay, wow, this is amazing. This is going to be fire. Ask yourself, okay, and what's next? Right. What are the pros and cons of this idea? And what's next? What do I do after that? So you can really start to see some things all the way through, as opposed to stopping prematurely because you got so excited. You know, we talk about one of the dangers of creators is when they're trying to just get out of a working or a job. So you start doing things out of order. You do things incorrectly because you just look at something as an opportunity to escape this life that you're involved in. And that's not a bad life. There's a different way to look at, you know, what a job is and how to get the most out of it. So definitely start to think about your business as start to finish so you can differentiate. And that's what I'm hearing about what you're saying, Nixon. I'm just kind of re-saying it. Differentiate between your products. Hey, when does my product one start and when does it finish so that the next phase can open up?
Right.
Especially, and the same thing with a service, right? It's like, okay, if I offer this program or this service, at what point does that stop? Right. So that the next one picks up or it becomes something different. Mm-hmm. So those are some things to really pay attention to, because that's when people get burned. I know for me, one of the mistakes that I made early on is I didn't differentiate between what was free and what was paid. Mm. So I was doing free work for too long.
Right.
And then asking for money, and it became difficult. And of course, I have a heart of servitude. I like to serve. I want to help people. I'm super passionate about that, as a matter of fact. So then I would become uncomfortable about asking you for money because you never came and said, like, hey, so I mean, there's something I owe you here, right? Like there's at some point the exchange is supposed to happen.
Right.
And I'm like, you know what, forget it. Let's just keep going. And now I'm just like, it's not happening. I literally stopped the conversation last week. Like, no, that's it. No more. We're done.
See, but that's why even I be trying to give Moose my money. I promise you. You get like a percentage of my bank account at this point. But that's why, because I know for me, if you get me talking, I can't charge, right? So I know that's a certain level with you, with certain things, where it's like, I don't know, I'll go, okay, give me the invoice. You're like, yep. Anyway, so let's talk about something else. I'll be like,
right.
So he's not talking about me. I just want to put that out there.
No, it's not Nicky. No. It's somebody else. Now we was at this thing for a month, and you know, I've gotten better. So like I started joking because I learned from my mistakes. I realized that there was the same thing I would charge someone for, I would do for free elsewhere. And it's like, that doesn't make sense.
Right.
For one, you're being disrespectful to your clients who are paying you.
Right.
It's like, what are you saying to them? Like, hey, I'm taking advantage of you because you're willing to pay and this person isn't. So I'll do it for them for free, but I'll charge you to do it. That's like, imagine how your clients would feel.
Now I got a question. Mm-hmm. What about those situations or people that charge based off who you are? Right? Like, is that fair? I've been guilty of it in the beginning, and like, I'm more now like aware, like, no, regardless of who you are, this is pretty much the price. So like, even when we were coming up with the prices today, right? It was more like, okay, what do I charge on a one-on-one basis? Now let's times that. And I gave you, oh Lord. Shout out to everybody who's trying to call me while I'm on live. Y'all know I'm on live. y'all know I'm on live.
Don't call.
Right. Like, what are we doing? But anyways, but I knew based off my one-on-ones now, just added up, no matter who it is, this is the package for this particular thing, right? To talk to me, this is what it is. However, before it was like, you get it
Sizing
for this
them up.
price, but I know you got the money. You got it here.
Right.
Boom. So what do you say about those situations?
Yeah, it's inexperience, right? Because you shouldn't charge based on how much someone can afford. You charge based on what you provide will help someone to make. Right? So if I'm working in, let's say, a school district, and I'll just use, or just education in general. Well, for the most part, if you're working with public schools, you already know funding is limited. We know that because teachers are overworked and underpaid. Like, we just know that, right? Things are not the greatest, depending on what part of the state or the city that you're in. When you're working in a different sector, that the company is, let's say, $100 million, whatever it is.
Right.
The potential of what you provide to them and how much they can make in that space is significantly more than what someone who's just starting up and they're working by themselves, having to wear 7 different hats, is going to be. So don't do that. It's actually poor ethics to do that, because you're like just trying to see where you can get the most bang for your buck, or who's going to pay you more just because they have more. You should be thinking about, how will what I provide to this person, their organization, their company, how will it bring them more money or save them more money? And the best way to do it is to take a percentage of that. And this is where I talk about on the calls, Nick, where it's, if I make you an extra $100, and I say, give me $20 of that, would you be willing to do it? It's like, absolutely. Because if I have 0 of that $100 right now, and you're going to give me 100, and we're splitting pretty much 80-20, that's fair.
Right.
And you should, if you're uncomfortable with big numbers, just start taking off zeros until you get to a place that you're comfortable with it. So for example, if you're dealing with $100,000 contracts and you're like, yo, $100,000 is a lot of money, I'm just not comfortable with that, take off a 0, make it 10,000. Is 10,000 a little bit more comfortable for you? Think in the 10,000. It might be, no, that's too much. Think into 1,000.
Right.
Heck, think into 100, and think through that concept that way, and then add the zeros back on and figure out your pricing. But yeah, no, in short, I would say it's not about what someone can afford. It's about, what does my service create for them, or how does it make them more money or save them money? And I'm just simply thinking of a percentage of that. That's the fairest, most equitable way to do it. The person that is hiring you is not going to be upset that you took a small fee of what you helped them to make, because they're doing the work. Like, quite frankly, at the end of the day, if you're a service provider and you're using your creativity, your knowledge to generate funds, the person on the other side, for the most part, is still having to do the work. It's something that you're giving them to help accelerate that. So it's a fair split. So yeah, just in short, I would say that's how I like to think of it. It's like, can I just think of a percentage to take from what I'm going to make them or save them, and not size them up and charge them based on what's in their pockets?
Now, a follow-up question. Asking their budget. I've heard multiple things. I've heard ask them, because sometimes you may be undercharging yourself, because if you have a set price and their budget is above that, you just, stubbed your toe. Yeah, right? You stubbed your toe on that one. But then also, when you do that, then I don't know, it's like, I've heard too many things, right? So yeah. I've gone to the side of not asking for the budget. Like, my price is my price. If I'm under it, you just got a great deal. But what I'm not going to do is hear your budget and try to, because I know my heart, try to mold it to where you can afford it.
Yeah. It's an interesting conversation, right? When it comes to asking about the budget, because in a lot of cases, it'll become like a cat and mouse game.
Mm-hmm.
It's like who's gonna say their number first? Are you gonna
Right,
tell
right.
your number? Are you gonna say
Because
your
you can't
price first?
say
Or are you gonna say
like,
their
yo,
budget first?
what's your budget? 8,000. All right, so I want to do 7,000.
999.
Right, right. I got you. And then we'll
Look
do
at
that
that.
price.
Right,
Nah, I'm not spending my whole budget. Hello.
right, right. Yeah, no, it's you don't want it to feel like it's a cat and mouse game.
Right.
If you're someone who's confident and comfortable around your price, you really have an option, right? Especially if you know what the going rate is, or if you're in an industry that's standard. Like, for example, if you're someone in the oil business right now, you don't need to ask people what their budget for gas is, because why? Gas is one price. Like, it might vary state to state, but the price for this commodity is set.
Right.
And same thing in the service industry. Certain things, there's usually a set rate. So like if you're, for example, in legal, or you're looking to hire a lawyer or an accountant, professional services, there's usually a set rate that you're going to pay based on someone's experience and expertise in an industry, right? Big time lawyer, well, you're going to start to creep up somewhere north of $600 an hour, maybe up to even a couple $1,000s. Someone who's a little bit newer or isn't as established, well, it could be maybe 150, 250, up to $300. Those are things that we know just about professionals or some going rates. Now, if you're someone new, and what I used to do in the beginning is every single request that I got, I would sit and spend, I'm talking about almost a day and a half coming up with a proposal. And I would really want to, because I was using a proposal as a way to communicate back to the client that I understood what you want to accomplish and what your struggles are. And so here's the plan of action that I've created for you, and here's the cost that I will give you with that, or here are the options that I can present you with to help solve that. But then over time, I was like, man, me coming up with these proposals is time consuming.
Right.
It's actually taken a lot more time away from what I should be doing to generate more funds. So I use the budget question to know that if we're in striking distance, right? You can use the budget to figure. And if they're uncomfortable sharing, they say they might not know. It's like, well, okay, here's what you can expect to hear from me, right? You still give them a range. So yeah, avoid the cat and mouse game, because it will feel unethical. They'll be like, well, you just trying to, like you said, 8,000. So I come in at 79999 just to say I'm within the budget.
Right.
But if it's an opportunity just to save you time, and you present it as such to the client, and you're like, hey, I respect your time and obviously mine, I just want to make sure we're in striking distance. What were you looking to spend or invest in this or for this? Now it's like, okay, it's an honest conversation. Or here's what I normally charge. What were you looking to invest? Again, same concept. I'm being honest and ethical, but we have to get out of this last minute mentality of, I'm going to come up with my price last minute. I'm going to figure out my business model last minute. I'm going to figure out my offers last minute. Or when somebody asks me, just because I can do it, I'm going to craft up this whole entrepreneur endeavor on the spot, chef it up and be like, here you go. All right. So it's unethical and not sustainable. Most professionals, when you start seeing the difference between a solo creator and an agency has set frameworks for the most part around what they're going to deliver. So they've already thought their process out, and then they're just letting you know ahead of time, hey, this is the scope of what you can expect.
This is good.
Yeah.
I got one more. This is your life. This is not.
I was going to talk about. I wanted to ask you about the flat fee versus the hourly rate, because that was like something that I feel.
Oh, we went. I played devil's advocate.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah, no, we played devil's advocate. Well, I played devil's advocate on that. So, real quick, we like we've been kind of alluding to, like we've been dealing with this kind of proposal and trying to figure out how to price it. And Moose, because we're doing more of like an agency thing, hit me with an hourly situation. And I haven't done hourly in forever, right? All because, and I shared him the clip and he shared it with Nick, I believe.
Yeah, I sent
right?
it to Nick.
Where your price shouldn't go based off of an hour because of how I move. I can do something in 15 minutes that takes somebody 3 hours, right? And so I shouldn't get necessarily paid based off the hour for what I do, right?
Yeah.
And so, but he also at the same time brought up, well, sometimes when we do the flat fee, and we don't know the scope of work in its entirety, we could get very frustrated because we actually lowballed it once we're in there and we really know what's happening with the project, right? So I've been on a high side of it and I've been on an extremely low side of it. I've done the flat rate where it's like, okay, this is great price. This is amazing. And then you find out really what life is. And you're like, oh, this is not even worth it. I don't even know why. Blah, 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 you know. But I did like what Moose said as far as like, until you know the true scope of work, you should charge an hourly thing. And see, normally when I hear something like that and I've had experience, I'm like, nope, not doing it. Nope. I don't care what you say. We're going to figure out this flat fee. If I get hit with it, I get hit with it, whatever. But I was like, you know what? Love it. Let's try it. Why not? Cool. Right? Until I started knocking down some of these things that was being requested because it just was like, it wasn't there. But I've seen, like I said, I've seen both sides, and I've seen definitely the low side of the flat fee. But the high side of a flat fee, for those who may remember, I had to do a piece of content. I'm not gonna say with who. Y'all can figure it out. But I had to do a piece of content for a really huge company, huge. And what the flat fee was way more than anything because it was only for 60 seconds of my life, right? And I'm like, wait. It made me rethink of pricing on whole totality. Like, if that's 60 seconds, what am I doing with an hour? What am I doing with a week? I want to go on this side. I like this side more. Let me stay here. I can do this. Give me like 3. Let me get 5 minutes. What?
Of that
Let me
pricing
5 minutes. I am good. What are we doing? Right?
Right.
So I think because I've seen that side of like what you thought your hourly rate was is honestly your 60-second rate. When I saw that in real life, it made it harder for now to price things.
Yeah.
It made it very hard because I'm like, I want to. If they're doing this over here, I get it. It's a whole new scope of work, but my worth. You just told me my worth for 60 seconds.
Right.
Was this, and I heard I got gypped.
Got it for
I
the
heard,
low.
right? Yo, that you should have charged more. I said more. What? Oh, I'm brand new. I'm giving it all my stuff to her now. Like, here you go. Look, there was this recent company. Here you go. Break that down for me. What am I supposed to do? Let me know, because I have no clue clearly.
Yeah.
And once I figured that out, oh, it's a wrap. It is a wrap. It'll make me be like, agency. Somebody else run that. Come over here. Whatever. Y'all better catch me while I'm in this mood of building this, because
Right.
when this is taken care of, when this is figured out, when the system is there, what? What?
Yeah, I remember the most I made in like a single day's work, right? I like built a relationship with someone and they later said, so like for me, that was like the single highest payday, right? Let's think of like a single individual payday. And I built a relationship with the gentleman who kind of orchestrated the whole deal. And then he was like, well, we were talking about how to work in that space because it is different than just a normal whatever business sector. And he was like, well, I mean, I know you gave us a huge discount. I was like, huge discount, bro. And in my mind, yeah, totally.
This is all about the relationship. Then you just try to BS it. It's about the relationship at this point.
Yeah, it's first time we work together. It's no big deal. And I'm like, what? A huge discount? Do you understand this was the most I've ever received in a single day's work?
Right.
And I'll never forget that. Like, yo, every industry has its own rules and laws. So someone said, so essentially you need experience first to determine what to charge. Yes, but more importantly, you need to study your industry so you figure out like, hey, based on what I'm bringing to the table, especially as a creative or a service provider, like I talked about, what's my business model? Where do I make most of my profits? Where do I incur most of my expense? Because if you don't know those things, you can have a ton of experience and still not make money because you're pricing yourself incorrectly. And that's kind of the part that we're arriving at and getting comfortable with the fact that for some people, a flat fee model works and it works great. Heck, for their personalities, they probably have an intimidating personality that someone doesn't even want to come and point out that anything is wrong anyway. So they're like, oh, it works great. Yeah, charge them a flat fee because ain't nobody going to come and tell you, talk at you crazy. Right. But for others of us who people feel extremely comfortable nitpicking every 7.3 errors in a single inch of work, you're like, okay, no, I gotta do something about that. So there are ways for us to think of pricing a little bit differently so that you are almost, what's the word? You're what's the word I'm thinking of?
I don't know.
Yeah, I blanked out completely. But it's like, in a way, wow, lost my train of thought. I know what I wanted to say, but I just thought I forgot the word. But anyway.
Need more food. It's okay.
Yeah, we need a little more food. That's right. So, yeah, well, I don't know. You were asking something before that. I forgot even what you said.
I don't even remember now. If you blanked out, I definitely blanked out.
I totally forgot the word. No, it's like when you're not complimented, but like, you know how you said, I don't want to be penalized for doing work too quick. What's the opposite of that?
What opposite of penalized? Rewarded?
Yeah, like what? Man, that's crazy. Somebody in the chat help me out. I know I ain't crazy. There's a word for that. I know I'm not crazy.
I'm like, rewarded? What's the opposite of penalized? Rewarded.
Yeah, there you go. Rewarded. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's like, you're rewarded for providing your best work in a quality time or within reasonable time so that you can protect that greatest asset and you're not having to deal with revisions or additional changes. And by the way, the reason why revisions and additional changes are really one of the more stifling things in businesses that require two parties to agree on something. It's because it stops you from getting to your next project. Now it creates time delays, frustrated clients, and neither of you are happy. So yeah, that's exactly what I'm gonna say. Thank you, Nicky. I was like, man, I know what I'm trying to say. Just that one word was not coming to me.
Oh, you're good. You're absolutely good. I was confused. Don't rely on me for a word. I'll be stumped real quick.
Messed me up.
He be doing that all the time. What's the word, Nicky? I have no clue where you're going with that, sir. Don't really know. Don't we? Man, I don't know. And then he'll come up with something. I was like, that is exactly not what I was thinking about. That was nowhere near what I was thinking about. But
different.
Okay, so what would you advise people just starting, right? As far as like first steps of figuring out what to price their products and services. Like,
Yeah.
I think for the most part, I really don't think there's too much of a difference, because when you start off, and even sometimes even advance, you still struggle with figuring out what that is. Like, I think I could confidently at this moment figure out how to price programs and like courses and classes and all that. I can confidently do that just because of the experience and everything like that. But other stuff, I'm like, ooh, this is new, right? This is not really sure.
Right.
Hello, I literally said I'm going to create a position in your company. That's brand new. I gotta go Google and look up salary things and stuff. Like, this is, what are we doing? So, what would your advice be for like newbies?
Yeah, the cool thing is, man, we live in the information era.
Yep.
So, and shout out to Daryl, who was on our last episode, where he basically told you how he learned much of the tips and tricks about the YouTube space through a local YouTube mastermind that he found on Meetup.
Yeah.
So simply getting into a space or an industry, don't rush to learn just through interaction. You can also learn by asking other professionals in the space, right? And figuring out. Now, I will say, don't ask just one person. You want to speak to a few different people so that you can kind of start to see where is the average, where's that moving average, where are most people falling into. The struggle that some people have, and that's why you don't want to just trust one source, is someone can charge more, but they're not able to get consistent clients to pay them that amount, or someone is charging less, right? And they're overworked. So you want to kind of find that balance. Okay, where do I fall in? What level or skill talent am I bringing into the industry now? And where does that fall on that spectrum between the highest number I've heard and the lowest number I've heard? How can I price myself at a fair and reasonable amount? And then I can go to market on that. Another thing is, and this is something that we used to do regularly before, I don't want to say the internet era, but definitely before the personal brand era. You call your competitor or you call someone in the space. And not that you're faking it, but you go through the process of what it's like to be a client or a prospect in their process. And you're trying to figure out, okay, how do they figure out what they should charge, or what information are they collecting, and what's their flow and conversation like? And just through that alone, you're gonna get education about how do some of the greats in your industry, what they do and what others are doing that you shouldn't do, so you can figure out where to land. But definitely a simple rule of thumb, if you're a creator or a service provider and you are someone who is dealing with things that require a lot of change, or it's something you've never done before. So the minute you get under the hood and you really see what the problem is, you're going to have a better idea of what it will take. I believe you should do the ethical thing, which is to work by the hour instead of a flat fee, and really utilize project management tools to calculate your hours accurately. So now people are like, if they say, okay, well, you charged me by the hour, you said this was 25 hours. Let me see record of that. What did you do during the 25 hours? It may sound annoying, but don't take it personal. It's like, oh, by all means, you have the right to ask me that question. And here's a record of what I did for each of the 25 hours.
Right.
But now people are on the same page about, if I keep asking you to do things that you've already done, or you do things that I've already asked of you to do, and change them and make this edit here and do that edit there, it's now agreed and understood that that's going to cost more. But if I run you a flat fee, now I'm almost in a relationship with you and I don't know when to say it's over.
Right.
Because we have this unlimited almost relationship running. So that is definitely one of the things that I will at least just kind of put out there for a general scope.
Okay, one more question. I got one more.
Okay.
What would you do if you're pricing something that hasn't been done before? So like, from my studies, right, you always want, when it comes to, oh, here I am, like branding yourself, of doing something that you're in a category of your own, so you could write your own ticket, right? So you're able to determine what the industry standard is based off the category that no one else is filling. So with that, there isn't necessarily research or whatever, supposedly. What would you do? What do then?
Okay. So here's the honest truth. First off, that is extremely rare. It doesn't happen as often as people think it's happening or it happens. But in the event that it is, and you're really as good as you believe that you are, and I believe all of us should believe that, right? If we're in a space, we should be working on our confidence and our word to believe that, I can do this. And if you're presented with that opportunity, most likely, if this goes right, this is going to be an opportunity of a lifetime for you. So here's what I would suggest. And again, you're confident in your skill set. Don't take no money up front. This is where you look for, hey, I don't want to overcharge you or undercharge you or do anything that is not equitable, right? Why don't we do something on the back end?
I see what you did there. Okay.
That because you're talking about the single greatest opportunity for some. It's like, imagine, of course, my favorite company, Apple, came to me and said, hey, Steve Jobs, rest in peace, came to me and said, hey, I'm starting this company. I don't know what I'm gonna call it. I need you to help me XYZ. We're gonna do this. And it's like, okay, well, rather than me just get a check from Steve, what if I actually negotiated, payouts on the back end?
Right.
And I was able to get a set percentage, even if it's 2%, 5% of what I produce and what I contribute. If you're dealing with the right person, great opportunity. Of course, make sure your paperwork is right. Again, make sure your paperwork is right in that case, because it's gonna feel like you're doing free work, but the payouts will be tremendous because, one, it shows the person on the other end of the table that you're someone who's willing to take ownership, that you're willing to do to almost carry the risk with them. And because you're getting paid on a percentage, you show them that you care. You're just as invested. So I'm not just an employee or someone that you're hiring as a contractor. I now have become your partner in this business. So those are the times where I step away and I say, nope, let's not do just a regular transaction. Let's work on the back end. I'll put up my work and my best effort, and whatever is made can be split over some form of percentage.
So good. If y'all still watching live, drop some emojis if you got some value. If you're watching the replay, drop some emojis. Do something. Comment, whatever. Moose, thank you. Thank you. That was really good.
Yeah, thanks. That was fun.
Yay.
Who knew that our conversation from the last day and a half would turn into a live? But it did.
Just saying. But please do us a favor. Share this channel. We're almost at 9,000 subscribers. We're like at 8,800. Okay. Go. So we're almost at 9,000. Then we're on the road to 10. Okay. So share this channel with everybody you know and tell them, look, I was on my Instagram live and they were like, yo, this is the most underrated YouTube channel out. And I said, I received that.
Wow. That's dope.
I received that. I'll take that for sure. So yeah, share this out. Definitely listen to the podcast. It was a really good podcast. But if you are a video person, because you are on YouTube, tomorrow the full episode drops at 8 p.m. Okay, 8 p.m. And love you guys. That's it. Moose, thank you. Go eat
Yeah.
more. Yummy.